and welcome to Peters Principles. I'm Jim Peters, and this is my guest, Lowell School Committeeman and candidate for Lowell School Committee, Stephen Gendron. And we're going to talk a little bit about the schools today because that's one of the hottest topics coming out of this election. I think with the high school location and the new superintendent and all that stuff. What I'd like to ask you about first is the new superintendent. Who is he, and what is his background, and what do you expect from him?
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, so I think you're right. I think the school committee seems to be the hot political place to be these days, which was contrary to my belief when I first ran for the office last year. Yeah, we do have a new superintendent, and anxious to start working with him. Salah Kalfawi is his name, and he is formerly the superintendent of Winchendon. And prior to that, he worked for a few years in Arlington, Virginia, which is a large district, larger than Lowell. It's about 23,000 students in the Arlington, Virginia district compared to 15,000 here in Lowell. So I think that those combinations of experience with Dr. Kalfawi's experience in Winchendon as a superintendent and in a large district in Virginia as a deputy superintendent, I think he's going to be well prepared to lead the district going forward. So I'm looking forward to working with Dr. Kalfawi.
He has a doctorate.
He does, yes.
Okay.
He's a doctor.
And is it in education? Is it in administration?
Yes, it's an education-related field. There's some very specific doctoral programs that you can pursue. I'm not exactly sure what the specific program is, but it's definitely an educational field. Yeah.
Okay, good. I read this morning that that the Lowell Sun was recommending. It seemed to me to be recommending that we advance our what we did at the Merkland School to Holyoke, because Holyoke is having trouble bringing in their schools up to par, and the Merkland was, as you know, was a stellar effort.
Right. We've had several schools in Lowell move from the level 4 level to now level 1. The Merkland is the most recent one. I think the Riley prior to that moved up several levels, and we've had other schools accomplish that as well in recent years and months. In fact, if you compare Lowell to other urban communities, other peer communities like Worcester and Springfield and so forth, we have a higher percentage of level 1 and 2 schools than any of those communities, and we have no level 4 schools now. So I think, don't get me wrong.
No level 4 schools.
No level 4 schools in Lowell.
Great.
Yeah. So we have a lot to do in Lowell. There are many issues and problems, and just being level 1 doesn't mean that you're in the top percentile of education, which is what we strive to do. But if you compare the Lowell School District to our peer communities, we rank very highly, and I think we deliver a very strong product here in Lowell. My own sons graduated from Lowell Public Schools, and they're going off and doing well. So I think we have a great product here in Lowell, and that's why I decided to run and serve on the school committee, is I want to try to keep it that way, because the school district is critical to the city. The city does not thrive and function well if the school district is weak. A strong school district leads to a strong city. People aren't going to move into this community and live in this community and send their children to the schools in this community if we have a weak school district.
Well, we haven't traditionally had a weak school district. I'm doing a piece for mainly for myself, but I'm going to blog it on the history of the school system.
Mm-hmm.
And Lowell has a unique history in that it took care of its young people educationally since 1826.
Yeah.
Since they first founded the city.
First opened the first co-ed high school here in the city of Lowell.
High school put girls on the Carnegie medals, which was unheard of at the time.
Right. Yeah, I'd be interested to see that blog piece. I agree. I think that's been the key to Lowell's success over the years. Is we paid attention and focused on our school district. with all of the issues and problems that we have and all of the challenges that we have in taking on new refugees and newcomers to the country, we've, I think, performed remarkably well. And that's, again, when I was back on the city council back in the 90s, that's during that was the time in which we built 13 new schools here in Lowell,
right.
thanks to the funding that came out of the federal government at the time. So, and where would we be without those schools now? So over the years, Lowell has made its school district a priority, and I want to continue to serve on the school committee so that I can continue that tradition.
Okay, well that's good. I've noticed that you've been involved with community service, and I just wanted to find out what you've been doing, because I remember you had a group of kids working back in the 1990s when you were in the city council, and Spindle Corps, was that it?
Yeah, Spindle City Corps, Jim.
Spindle City Corps.
I'm glad you have the institutional memory, because and so that you remember that effort that I led back in the 90s. Yeah, when I was on the city council, I founded an organization, a nonprofit organization called Spindle City Corps, and its mission was to bring young people together from a variety of ethnic, racial, and economic backgrounds, have them work together over the summer doing community service around the city of Lowell. And it had great results. The benefit you got out of that was a privately funded college scholarship. So it I think was a great success. I was actually president of the organization for 10 years. And it still exists in a different form, but it still exists as part of community teamwork now. And they work primarily with the Lowell National Park.
Do they still clean the canals and do all that stuff? Or?
They do a lot of cleaning work now.
Yeah,
that's what they
yeah.
whacking weeds and cleaning up the grounds. That's what they do now. Back then we did that as well, but we also tried to build in a lot more educational type of projects, working with the elderly and visiting schools, reading to the kids in schools. But so that ethic has been important to me all my life, really.
And you're doing it again. Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, that's kind of been a sidelight for me here on the school committee. I've been trying to focus on community service. We've had our first and our second annual Community Service Day in Lowell Public Schools over the past 2 years under my direction. And that day is intended to be a celebration of the community service that is done in the schools throughout the year. And there's an amazing amount of community service conducted by students in Lowell Public Schools. This year I calculated 16,000 hours of community service delivered by students across the school district, from kindergarten all the way up to Lowell High School. So
you do kindergarten to 12?
We do.
Yeah,
we get everybody involved. I think, so the service itself is important, right? Mm-hmm. We all need to give back to our communities if we're going to be successful. But I think more importantly is the education that we're giving the young people of that very fact, that, hey, you're not just along for the ride here, you're a member of this community, you're expected to contribute, and it's important to contribute. So that education, the younger you can start, the better. I think that, so we try to get the primary age kids involved as well, and they do all kinds of service ranging from, schoolyard cleanups to, they have visited nursing homes. They have a project called Katie's Closet. Katie's Closet is a large nonprofit organization, but the kids in Lowell have rallied around it and contributed to making it successful here in Lowell. And it's a great organization because they provide clothing for people that may not have it. And in Lowell, where we get so many newcomers and refugees that come to the United States with nothing, having appropriate clothing for them to access makes their lives so much better, and their education so much more valuable. So that's just one example of the type of community service that we've been able to do all throughout the district.
So you have a program that feeds and clothes the immigrants, or how does that work again?
So Katie's Closet is an organization
Right.
that provides clothing to people that don't have it.
Okay.
So if we have immigrants coming over here, which we do, right? We have refugees that come to the newcomers that come to the Lowell Public Schools with nothing. Having a place where they can go and get appropriate clothing just is really important for them.
Okay.
So,
all right, that sounds great. I always liked your Spindle City Corps, and I always liked your outlook on the city, where the city should be going. So you seem to be shooting for the stars a little more than some people. I don't know. The technology field.
yeah.
Word is that you have been doing quite a bit in technology, but in your role with the school committee. So what have you been doing, and how's it working out?
So I'm the chairman of the technology subcommittee on the Lowell School Committee, and in that role I kind of oversee what's going on in the IT department and in the technology across the school system, and we've been making great progress. You may know in my career, my full-time role, I'm a technology guy. I'm an electrical engineer by degree, so I've had a lot of technology background. So I think that helps me in that role. But the group that we have now in the IT department in Lowell Public Schools is just fantastic, under the leadership of Bill Silver, who is the director of technology for the district, and they've made great strides. Everything from upgrading the wireless systems at schools all across the district, adding new technology to the classrooms, educating teachers on how to use the technology. All of those things have contributed to making a huge upgrade, a noticeable upgrade in technology across the city. Now we've got a long way to go, but we certainly made some progress there.
So do the elementary schools in the individual classrooms, what kind of technology did they receive?
So the way they generally do it is they start at the high school. So
Okay.
they've done a lot of, the entire high school is covered with wireless now. You should be able to get a solid wireless signal any place in Lowell High School, and that's all new equipment. But what they do is they sort of graduate that equipment down into the lower level schools. So they've taken that equipment that they replaced, and they've made it more, delivered a stronger wireless coverage across all of our schools. And we've been fortunate enough to receive some grants in this past year where we've been able to focus on technology at that middle school level, fifth or sixth grade.
Okay.
That has really been really important. One of the things that Mr. Silver did, I call him, sort of like the miracle of turning the fish and the loaves into feeding thousands. He was able to, with a relatively small amount of money, deliver much increased resources and services to the district. For instance, it was his idea to hire 11 or 12 part-time folks to deliver IT support to the schools. Now these are folks that we can hire relatively, much cheaper than a full-time person.
Right.
We don't have to give them benefits or any of those other things that are very expensive. But he was able to find some really qualified people who are looking for part-time work and had the expertise to do that. And as a result, the feeling across the district has just skyrocketed with regard to the value of our technical support in the schools. Each school has a specific person they can go to now for technical support. In the past, they would put in a ticket for a problem, my computer's not working, my wireless network is down, and it would be days before
Right.
anybody got back to them because we only had a few people trying to field all of those calls.
Right.
But now we have these part-time people whose response is much faster, and as a result, we're able to use the technology, in a much better way, right?
So we have our own Geek Squad.
We have our own Geek Squad. In fact, I brought along a little chart here to show you where it shows, it was a survey that was recently done by a private consultant that surveyed people all across the district, asking them various questions about technology. And everything that came back was favorable, but my favorite response was, has the IT operation been better than it was a year ago? Simple question. And about 95% of the respondents said that they agree or strongly agree with that. Almost 40% said they strongly agree with that. I think that's a real positive statement.
That's a very positive statement.
That this move that we made, relatively short money, and you know we're out, money's always an issue for us. So when we're able to get that kind of advancement with a relatively small investment, it's huge. So that was a great move, and one example of the types of things we've been able to do with technology in the city, in the school system, to really improve things.
Let me just ask you about the high school. What's your stand on where it's going?
So, you know, right now the high school is, we've been successful in getting the approval for the grant from the state.
Right.
And it now must go through like a 2-year process by which we, you know, Lowell has to commit to putting up money for a feasibility study. That'll be the next step. Once we have the money for that feasibility study committed to by the city, then we will start the process of working with the state to determine, you know, what kind of building facility do we need and where should it go.
Now, is any of this money going directly to immediate problems like leaking in the roof, or are we using city money for that at this time?
So there are, right now we have to use city money for that, but there are grants available. There are sort of these emergency grants from the state that we can apply for. So if we have a badly leaking roof, the state has a fund set aside for these emergency situations that we can apply for. So every year, Lowell does go forward and apply for those grants. So that's kind of a separate thing that we'll be applying for, and we'll do it every year for those situations that are getting particularly bad. But this money, you know, for the new high school would be specifically for the construction of a new high school.
Right. Well, I came out on Dick Howe's blog as being in favor of putting the new high school where the Merrimack Mills used to be. I don't know how much support.
So where is that? I'm not exactly
well,
sure.
You know where the tunnels are that connect the high school to the new building?
Yeah.
Okay. If you cross, you probably have to put a tunnel going across to the other side of Father Morissette Boulevard.
Okay, like where the Low 5 is now?
Well,
or?
where the right, the Low 5 is there. I couldn't remember which bank was there.
Right.
And the Low 5 wants to sell the
Sounds
building.
like it's for sale. Maybe we can work out a deal.
Yeah, well, the Low 5 wants to sell the building, apparently, according to one of your colleagues.
Right.
Wants to sell the building for a fair market value.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely cheaper than moving to Belvedere, and we also have the problem if we move to Belvedere of possibly funding 2 high schools.
Well, so I think there's a couple questions there. I think you could move it to the Belvedere location and keep it as a single high school. But if you do that, based on a study that we had done, you know, even before I came on the school committee, it started. We did a study with a consultant to analyze, you know, what the options are for a new high school. It's a starting point anyway. Mm-hmm. And it was determined that there were very few locations in the city where we could put a 4,000 student Lowell High School.
Right.
One of them would be out by College Stadium. But if we were to do that, first of all, it would be more expensive. They estimate it would be about 20% more expensive if we put it out.
Yes, because we have to buy the land, right?
The land, and you know, I say 20% more expensive, and I'm saying that in comparison to leaving the high school where it is,
right,
and leveraging existing construction.
Right.
So we'd be leveraging part of that construction. We wouldn't be destroying all of it. In fact, the part that we would maintain, according to that plan, would be the old portion, the yellow building,
right,
which is built much better than the 1980 building.
Right.
So I think because of the fact that we could leverage a lot of the construction that was there, it would be less expensive for us to build out in Belvedere. So that's an issue, right? If we go to a new site and build a new building, it's going to cost us more. The second thing is, under that plan, we would have to eliminate the skating rink out there.
Right, that would be part of it.
Yeah, so that would be probably a detriment to anybody that, the ice time is really hard to come by
Right.
in the state, so I think that would be a problem. The other thing is that, what about the impact on the neighborhood out there, right?
Right.
It's right smack in the middle of a neighborhood, and the buses and all the, bringing all the students out there might be
And the fact that that's a major egress in the morning for people going to
Right.
Boston.
Right. And then finally, transportation. Right now, with Lowell High centrally located, I think Headmaster Martin said that something like 30 or 40% of the students at Lowell High School can walk to the school, or maybe even more than that. Mm-hmm. And we can leverage the LRTA bus lines
Right.
To bring students to the school. So if we moved out to Belvedere, we'd have to bus everybody, and that'd cost us $1 million or more a year to do.
Right.
So there's a lot of reasons, I think, to leave it downtown right where it is. Perhaps leverage other parcels, like, there's been talk about the dentist's office parcel, or maybe the Lowell 5 parcel that you bring up. But leaving it in the central business district seems to make a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. However, we need to sit with the state. The state is going to work with us to determine what we need and what the best location is for it. They're not going to be anxious to give us, another $50 million
Right.
to move out to Belvedere.
Right.
So if it makes sense to leave it downtown and it's the most cost-effective route, the state gets very involved in those decisions. So it's not going to be left to the city alone. We have to work with the state and determine what is going to be the best path, and with their advice, choose a location.
I think that the State Department of Education is probably one of the most active departments in the state, in the State House. And I'm not surprised that they would be part of it.
Yeah.
It's seems to me to be part of their mission to make it as easy as possible for schools to grow and
Yeah.
get better. And I was listening to John McDonough on City Life the other day, and he said something about 90% of our budget comes from the state. Is that true?
That's probably true. I know 85% of our budget is dedicated to personnel. Mm-hmm. So we really only have about 15% of our budget to use for discretionary spending. But I would guess, I don't have the exact numbers on me, but it's certainly a very high percentage that comes from, 90 sounds a little high, probably more like 80, but certainly a very high percentage comes from the state.
Yeah, okay.
But
it's good. I mean, the state should be involved, I think.
Certainly. Yeah.
We have the benefit of having the ex-superintendent of schools on the Department of Education in the State House, and her name is escaping me presently.
Carla Brooks-Bear?
Carla Brooks-Bear, thank you.
Yeah, I think she has a soft spot for Lowell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we're hoping for anyway.
Right. There's been some criticism. The reason I bring up the state's involvement is there has been some criticism in the past of the MSBA mm-hmm. and how they deliver money to communities. There's been some cases where communities have, built these palaces, all on, with a large portion of it coming from state money. So as a result, in recent years, the state has been getting very much more involved in, if they're going to fund a school, they want to be involved in, what the makeup is. They don't want to have state funding going into development of school that's out of whack.
Yeah, you don't want it to be technically moribund before its opening day. You want it to be futuristic.
Right.
As much as you possibly can.
And they also don't want...
Which is where technology comes in.
Right. And they don't want to build the Taj Mahal on state money. Right. If the state's going to contribute, they want it certainly to be up to date and fully functioning, but they don't want communities to go overboard, which is why they want to be involved in helping communities, plan these things.
Now, is the National Park going to be involved with any planning in the downtown area, or?
I would assume so.
I don't know myself.
I would assume that they would at least have some input into how what happens there. I mean, I think the whole community should have input. And I think that there will be community meetings and opportunities for the National Park or anybody across the city with an opinion to
So
deliver it.
we're talking about 19, 19.
You're dating yourself now, Jim.
2017, 2018 for the study to be done?
I think the study, hopefully the study would be done before that. I mean, I think that the study we're looking at maybe 3 years. So, oh gosh, I guess that brings us up to 2018, huh? 2017, 2018. And then it's probably another, 3 to 5 years for construction. So we're probably, 6 to 8 years away from a time where we could have
We'll
a
have
brand
the
new high
Olympics
school.
first.
Yeah, we might have
We might have the Olympics
first.
before they get
Yeah,
to
we
high
might,
school.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Steve, for being on the program. I've enjoyed it, and hopefully we can get you back sometime.
Are we done already? I thought we were just getting started, Jim.
Yeah, we're at like 26 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, that's where we want to be, right?
Can I say?
Yeah.
Can I?
Add-
Just add.
Whatever.
This is my first term on the school committee. As you noted earlier, I was on the city council in the 90s, and since then I was a library trustee for 8 years, and then I was a planning board member for 8 years. So I've been consistently involved in local government. But this is my first term on the school committee,
Right.
and it's been quite an education. It's really been, I've learned more than I ever thought I would. It's been a lot of work, but it has been enjoyable. I've enjoyed being part of the school committee, and I think that it's so important to the future of Lowell that it's important that residents really pay attention to it. Even if you don't have children in the school system, it's important to our community. So I hope to continue serving going forward.
Well, I wish you luck.
Thanks, Jim.
And it's been nice having you on the show.
Anytime.
Thanks, Steve. Okay. This is Jim Peters. This has been Peters Principles. And remember, you never know who you're going to see on Peters Principles. So tune in. Thank you.